So like we talked about last Friday, LeBron, Steph, and KD are all out of the playoffs. That means the younger generation of players, it's now their opportunity to shine. We're going to see who potentially is going to be the next face of the league post those three legends. I mean, Luka, Tatum, Shea, but the guy who's undoubtedly leading that race right now is Anthony Edwards.
I mean, I haven't seen something like this since like a young LeBron. Like first, he plays against his idol, gives KD the work, sweeps his ass in the first round, and then you go up against the defending champions. Dude has no fear whatsoever, and he's giving them the work now too. This is just insane.
Before we start talking about Anthony Edwards, if you haven't already, make sure to leave this video a like, give us a subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on one of our videos. So a little over a year ago, we made a video asking who the next face of the NBA was going to be. And normally when I mention one of our old videos, I normally say, oh, go check it out, and then come back to this video. I'm actually going to recommend you don't do that because this video aged rather horribly. Long story short, I picked Ja and Ben picked Zion. But one player we didn't even bother to mention was Anthony Edwards.
Yeah, I don't really know why, because one of the main themes of the video we were saying, like, well, an American player is usually the face of the league. Like, sure, these European players come in are absolutely incredible, Jokic, Luka, Wemby, but people just love to watch American players, LeBron, Steph, back to Kobe. We've always loved that, and there was one sitting right in front of our eyes, and for some reason, we just didn't even mention him. Like you said, didn't even get a segment, a mention, nothing.
I think the reason was, like, it was his third year in the league, and he was playing pretty well. I mean, he's putting up very comparable stats to what he's putting up this year, but this was a time when Timberwolves stock was pretty damn low. Cat was missing most of the year with an injury. The Gobert trade was being pilloried as one of the worst trades in NBA history because it was not working at the time. And the Wolves were regressing a lot from the prior season. I mean, they only went 42-40 and got bounced by the Nuggets in round one. And going into this season, I don't think people expected much from them. I mean, their over-under in terms of wins from Vegas was only 44.5, but they blew everyone away.
This was what they envisioned when they traded for Gobert and sent out all those picks. Their defense, they're just one of the best defensive teams in recent memory. If you want to have a hot take, maybe even say one of the best of all time. This is ridiculous. Their defensive rating went from 10th to 1st. Opponents' points per game, 18th to 1st. Opponents' field goals per game, 15th to 1st. Their field goal percentage, 11th to 1st. Opponents' 2-point field goal percentage, 6th to 1st. Opponents' effective field goal percentage, 11th to 1st. Basically every stat on defense, they're first in. Like, you have to say, it's one of the best defensive teams in recent memory, and one of the best I remember watching live.
And apparently the whole like genesis for their big defensive turnaround, apparently Chris Finch and Rudy Gobert just like had a talk in the offseason and they decided that they just wanted to be the best defensive team in the NBA and that defense was going to be their identity.
That's all it took.
So what I'm going to need to happen is I'm going to need Chauncey to sit down with DeAndre Ayton and have a long talk over the offseason about how the Blazers are going to become the best defense in the NBA. It won't work, but I at least like them to try.
Yeah, I mean, it helps when you have Rudy Gobert, one of the best defensive centers ever, Mike Conley, great defender. Jaden McDaniels, one of the best perimeter defenders. Anthony Edwards, a great defender.
We have none of that.
Yeah, we have none of that. So they have the personnel to get it done. And we're talking all about their defense, which has been incredible. It's a pretty solid, like, offensive team. Obviously, you have Cat, a really good co-star offensively. He was a first option in the past. Naz Reid, 6th man of the year. And then Rudy Gobert, Mike Conley, and Jaden McDaniels, all giving you 10 plus points a game, even though they're not guys like you set up plays for. But I mean, Anthony Edwards is the star of the show. 26 points a game on 46% shooting and an underrated 3-point shooter as well.
And I mean, this season he provided highlight plays just like once a week. I mean, he had maybe the block of the year against the Pacers to help the Wolves secure a road win in Indiana. And then not even 2 weeks later, he has the dunk of the year when he baptizes John Collins. I mean, incredible year for Ant. Makes it to the All-Star team for the second time in his career. Leads the Wolves to a 56-26 record, better than I think basically anyone thought was possible. They're the third seed in the playoffs. They're matched up with Phoenix in the first round, and owning up to our mistakes, both of us picked Phoenix in this series.
I mean, it feels like obvious in hindsight to be like, oh, the Timberwolves, I mean, they were so good on defense. They were going to stop the Suns, but I mean, the Suns dominated the regular season.
Yeah, I mean, the Suns won all 3 games in the regular season by 10 plus points, so we thought, you know, the perimeter scoring ability of Durant, Booker, Beal, that'd be enough to overcome the Wolves defense, and, well, Game 1 started close. Suns actually led 28-27 after the first quarter thanks to a strong start from Kevin Durant. But after that, the Wolves dominated. Ant had 18 points in the third quarter by himself. The Wolves ran away with Game 1. They won 120-95. And the highlight of this game was Ant hitting a three over Kevin Durant at the end of the third quarter and then just letting him hear about it. And this was amazing. This was a guy trash talking KD, who he has said on several occasions was his favorite player growing up. And this was just fucking awesome. This was amazing.
I mean, dude's living that my career, like playing against your favorite player, giving him the work. And yeah, this is great. So fun to see. You love the competitiveness between the two. Shout out KD. Video's not about him. He just got swept, but to be able to be competitive and smile about it and not be like a pain in the ass, like shout out to KD for that. That was nice to see.
And it was kind of at this point after Game 1, like after such a dominant performance that a lot of people, it seems like for the first time, we're kind of like, oh, this guy kind of reminds us of like Jordan and Kobe. Now, I know Ant has mentioned that he doesn't like the MJ comparison because if we're being honest at this point, it's kind of unfair to both guys. But I mean, the comparisons are just there. They are. We'll get it more into him a little bit later, but come on, he does play like a young Michael Jordan.
I mean, he does. And like, there's some about shooting guards that play on both ends that just have a killer instinct. Like, you could also throw D Wade kind of in that conversation if you want. Like, for whatever reason, they're so much fun to watch. The dunking, the mid-range, like it reminds us of them. Like, you can't deny it at this point. And we gotta throw a shot at the Warriors in here because you'd think like they didn't have the opportunity to draft him, but apparently Brian Windhorst said recently, we'll take this with a pinch of salt because Brian Windhorst, that the Wolves tried to trade out the first pick in the 2020 NBA draft. Apparently the Wolves wanted to trade back and get some of their picks back from the Warriors, but the Warriors were locked in on James Wiseman, and they knew the Wolves didn't want Wiseman because they had Cat. But apparently, according to sources, the Warriors didn't want Ant because they were worried about his drive and enthusiasm for winning.
And yet they took James Wiseman.
Right.
This is trying to outthink the room.
But imagine like Steph and Anthony Edwards.
I don't want to imagine that. Ooh, stop. No.
That would have been a duo.
I don't want to imagine that world. Game 2, Ant didn't actually play that well this game, but didn't matter because that statement can be applied to basically the entire Phoenix Suns team. I mean, Beal, Booker, and Durant combined for only 52 points on 18 of 45 shooting, and the Suns only scored 93 total as a team en route to a 12-point loss. So going back to Phoenix for Game 3, big chance for the Suns to get back in the series in front of their home fans. Game was close at halftime. Wolves led by 6 as Ant and KD were going at each other in the first half. Ant had 16, KD had 14, but a dominant third quarter by the Wolves gave them a 22-point lead headed into the fourth quarter. And to Phoenix's credit, they tried hard in this fourth quarter. I mean, Bradley Beal had a great quarter, missed only one shot, but 18 fourth quarter points by Ant just snuffed out any chance at a comeback by the Suns. And they, again, third straight game, they basically blow out Phoenix.
Yeah, and then in Game 4, like Phoenix gave it all they got, or at least Booker and Durant did. Durant scored 33, Booker had 49, both of them shot over 60%. They didn't really get a lot of help. I mean, Beal was trash this game, and Ant did get some help. I mean, Cat specifically was great with 28 and 10, but Anthony Edwards, he just didn't give the Suns any life. 40 points, including going 13 to 23 from the field, 7 to 13 from 3, and dropping 16 in the fourth quarter while only missing one shot to turn a 2-point deficit into a 6-point win. And he sealed that with just the massive dunk on KD that basically took my breath
just
away.
Yammed it on his favorite player.
Again,
and
my career.
And then yells at him afterwards. Like, oh my God. What a way to close out the first series sweep in Minnesota Timberwolves history. Like, a series that a lot of people thought they weren't going to win, us included, and they basically outside of Game 4 dominantly swept the Suns.
Even after that, though, I don't want to say people were doubting this team because, you know, you had to take them seriously and they were going to be tough for the Nuggets, but we picked the Nuggets in 7. I think a lot of people were still picking the Nuggets. They're the defending champions, so how could you not? And we briefly talked about it, how like LeBron, Steph, and KD, their era was ending. Like the old guard was out and this was an opportunity for Ant to kind of be like skyrocket himself as potentially like the next face of the league.
He could do that even in a loss to Denver.
Yeah, he could. I mean, you're facing the defending champions. Like all eyes are going to be on you. Yeah, even if you lose, if he would have played well, you're still talking about him. And in Game 1, the dude just came out on fire. Like he scored like what, the first 11 or so points for the Timberwolves. They're up like 14-2. Nuggets battled back. You expected that. They went on that huge run, but Anthony Edwards just still made play after play to kind of just keep the Nuggets at bay.
Oh, he kept kept his team in this game in the first half. He had 25 points on 10 of 17 shooting. The rest of his team had 15 points on 6 of 27 shooting. I mean, credit to the Wolves defense. They only held the Nuggets to 44 first half points, but this game could have been like 30 to 44 at halftime if Ant's not playing out of his mind. And then the second half, credit to the Wolves. They get back in it offensively. They outscore the Nuggets 66 to 55. In the fourth quarter, Ant and Naz Reid combined for 26 points, seals the win for Minnesota on the road. In Denver, he finishes with 43 points, his second consecutive 40-point game, winning on the road in Denver, in that altitude, in the playoffs. Not an easy thing to do. But now going into game two, you know, a lot of times in the playoffs when the road team wins game one, either they come out lackadaisical in game two or the home team just comes out on fire. Because the home team's thinking like, okay, we lost game one, now we have to win game two. And the road team might be thinking, okay, mission accomplished, we already got one on the road. So that's what we're thinking. And plus, Rudy Gobert is going to miss the game because he's with his wife for the birth of his child. So we're like, okay, their best defender against Jokic is not there. Denver is probably going to come out with that spark, like we got to get back in this series. Like, I think everyone figured Denver would probably even this series up, and that did not fucking happen.
Yeah, I kind of didn't know what to think going to this game because this Timberwolves team just has this weird feeling, but you couldn't doubt the defending champs. You thought kind of they'd go on their runs and kind of, you know, win, maybe not comfortably, but get the win in the end. But I mean, Ant again dropped 18 of his 27 points in the first half, and the Timberwolves race out to a 26-point halftime lead. Ant had that dunk in the fast break at the end of the half where he was kind of just screaming and flexing. And at this point, I was completely shocked. Like, I thought there was a chance the Timberwolves win the game. If you would have told me they're up 26 at halftime, I'd be like, nah, this is not real.
And again, this is not against just any team. This is against the defending NBA champions. I would say at this point, the big favorite, along with Boston, to win the title again. I mean, they even said on the broadcast, this was the largest deficit a defending champion had faced in the playoffs since 1992. Coincidentally, that game in 92 also included Michael Jordan, who people have been comparing to Anthony Edwards. The truth is out there, guys. You just gotta look for it sometimes. To go along with the MJ comparisons, I mean, Ant has said he doesn't like them, but with the way he played this game, I mean, he's gotta be trolling because the mid-range shots over multiple defenders, something we haven't even mentioned yet, the fact that he's playing this well on offense and he's clamping dudes up on defense. And in the fourth quarter, he even hits the MJ shrug. It's like, come on, man. Like, you can't say you don't want the MJ comparisons and then you go out there on national TV and then play his greatest hits.
I mean, yeah, the shrug, that's just the cherry on top. Like, he knew what he was doing there. And yeah, that fadeaway he had to put him like up 30 or whatever it was over two defenders, crazy. Wolves beat Denver in their house for the second straight game to go up to a 106-80, Denver's lowest point total since the goddamn bubble.
4 years. 4 years, seventh lowest total a team scored all season this year. Again, the defending champion Nuggets at home with the guy that a lot of people think is the best offensive player in the league.
I mean, Denver felt unstoppable, and now it kind of feels like they have no chance in this series anymore. Like, they were defeated, they were getting technical fouls. Jamal Murray, he's obviously hurt, but he was ass. Like, I just cannot even believe what's going on right now.
And a lot of credit obviously has to go to Ant's teammates. I mean, you don't play this well on defense unless you got a full like squad of troops ready to go. Everyone knows their role. Everyone plays it to perfection. But as Charles Barkley would always say, Ant's the bus driver on this team. And expectations were high for him going into the series. And I think he's unbelievably exceeded them. And we mentioned in our video last Friday, like, he's got everything you want as the next face of the league. He's immensely talented. He's got that drive to win that so many old heads say is missing from today's game. Like, he's a trash talker, but you can tell like it's all within the spirit of the game. It's within the spirit of competitiveness. Like, there's no ulterior motives. He's not a dick like Draymond is. He's got it all. And game 3 is tonight. Series is far from over. Should be fully anticipating Denver to come out and give their absolute best tonight. They're an excellent team who won the title last year for a reason. Like, they will not lay down and die. But if Anthony Edwards continues this run through the playoffs, I honestly think this playoff run for him could be honestly like his 2007 LeBron run to the finals.
Yeah, I can't think of another like guy that's been this young, has this crazy athleticism that kind of could be leading his team to the finals, or who knows, maybe even a championship at this point. Like, sure, Luka had some great playoff moments, but he doesn't have the athleticism or anything. Not saying Anthony Edwards is better or anything, but I can't think of another player besides LeBron that has had this moment, the dunks, the blocks, coming up big in the playoffs at a young age.
Maybe Derrick Rose. But even Derrick Rose, we knew he had to get through Miami, and we knew that was unlikely. Like, if Minnesota gets past Denver, people really think think OKC's gonna stop them? OKC's really good. But if Minnesota claps Denver 2 more times, I don't think the Thunder are beating them.
Timberwolves might be the favorites at that point. Obviously the Celtics, we got to see what they do, but if the Timberwolves sweep the Nuggets like this, they're the favorites, straight up. You can't say anything else.
And if Ant keeps playing like he's been playing, I mean, fuck, sky's the limit for him.
Yeah, face of the league type stuff. Wemby versus Ant for the next like 10 years out west. That's going to be some fun stuff.
That's the video, guys. What do you think Anthony Edwards' ceiling is? I'd love to hear what you have to say in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, consider leaving it a like, as it really does help us out. And while you're here, why not check out some of our other videos as well? And don't forget to subscribe to Synthetic Sports.